So now it is 4 o'clock. Shall we start?
I'm ready.
Good evening to one and all. Respected resource person, Professor Srinivasan sir, distinguished scholars, and my dear students, a warm good evening to all. This is the third day of our 5-day international textual workshop on the Dasasloki of Acharya Shankara. Professor Srinivasan sir had beautifully, very brilliantly explained the meaning of Tom in the Vedantic dictum Tattvamasi as the interpretation of the first 3 shlokas of Dasasloki. Now we are moving to the the next session. On behalf of ISS, I request our respected resource person to continue his class on Dasasloki. Please continue, sir.
Thank you.
Over to you. Thank you, sir.
Om Yasya Prasadat Mokopi Vavadoko Bhijayate Bhashya Bhavignya Vikhyataha Sadgurum Pranamamyaham Panditanam Cha Rajanam Sastre Ratnakaropamam Balapurvam Gurum Vande Subramanyabhidam Muda Shruti Smriti Puranana Malayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. The fourth verse of the Dasasloki. Na Sankyam, na Shaivam, na Tatpancharatram, na Jainam, na Mimamsakader Matamba. Visishtanubhutya Vishuddhatmakatvat Tadeko Vasishtas Shiva Kevaloham. The names used here, Sankhya, Shaiva, Pancharatra, Jaina, Mimamsaka, and Adi. Adi connected with these 5 words. They show that it must be with regard to Jagat Karana Vastu. What is the Jagat Karana Vastu? Already we have seen the first 3 deal with individual, first 3 dealt with the individual verse, individual soul. The next 3 verses, 4, 5, 6, they deal with Jagat Karana Vastu, that is in other words Ishvara. So Ishvara is being dealt with in these 3 verses. That is how Shuddhachit, how it is to be shown, how it is Shuddhachit, how it is Asanga. So that he is Asanga, Shuddhachit will be taken up in this particular verse, Visuddhatmakatvat. That is a single reason for what is called saying that the different types of Ishvara proposed in different philosophies and different religions is not acceptable to Advaita. In other words, is not acceptable to Vedic interpretation. So Advaita will naturally say Advaitic interpretation alone is a strict Advaitic Vedic interpretation. Okay. And first he takes up Sankhya. Sankhya is the first point presented here that is taken up for discussion. And what is the Sankhya position? Sankhya, say all these things have to be understood. He has just used the word Sankhya, etc. And that position is generally understood from the different philosophies and their interpretations or their interpretations of Upanishadic passages. That is, the interpretations of Upanishadic passages by these respective people. So from that point also we can understand what their concept of God is and whether that concept of God will go with the Advaita concept and whether it will toe the line of Mahavakya. Say the most important thing here we have to remember is the Mahavakya. Mahavakya is the central concept that is considered to be the central purport, and the Mahavakya is decided by the Shadvida Tatparya Nirnayaka Lingas. That is understood. All other concepts, all other ideas, description of Jiva, description of Ishvara, etc. are presented and they have to be oriented towards Mahavakya. They are called Shodhaka Vakya, that is cleansing. Jiva is presented in Vachaka and Vachya Bhava immediately, that is ordinary Jiva is presented and ordinary Ishvara is presented. Ishvara is Jagat Karana, that is creator God. And the creator God is not identified with ordinary Jiva. In Advaita, Ordinary Jiva is not identified with the Creator God. Creator God is definitely supreme. There is no doubt about. Compared to a Jiva position, Creator God is definitely supreme. And the Brahma Sutra itself says, Jagad Vyapara Varjam. That is, even when what is called Krama Mukti, even when the person reaches Krama Mukti, the highest heavens, there is no question of identity with God and no question of partaking the creation work. The creation work dispensed by God. That is not taken. Identity with God. So what happens? Then what exactly is meant by God? What is the concept of God, or what does it convey? The word, when we speak of identity, the idea conveyed by both Jiva as well as Ishvara is Shuddha Chinmatra. That is Lakshyartha. Through Lakshyartha, the Shuddha Chinmatra alone has to be taken. And when you take Shuddha Chinmatra, that is Eka and all pervasive. So the Shuddha Chit underlying the Jiva and the Shuddha Chit underlying the Ishvara cannot be two different things. They have to be identical and they have to be one. In this way, identity between Jiva and Ishvara is brought about. And while this particular idea is presented, that is Shodhaka Vakya, all the concepts about Ishvara, etc., is taken up as Shodhaka Vakya. Others don't what is called speak of or propose the concept of Shodhaka Vakya, that is Yathartha Pramana and all those things. Others don't think of that. So they actually propose the Vachyartha itself is the real meaning, that is the final meaning. So can it be? Is it possible? That is a discussion now. So can God be a permanent one? Can God be permanent one like that? Can it be taken up like that? That's the question. So now what happens? Let us go one by one. The first question is Sankhyam. Na Sankyam. He has just simply said Na Sankyam. The Sankhya view cannot be acceptable. Sankhya view is not tenable. Let us discuss this one. What does Sankhya say? Practically, Sankhya does not speak of Brahman at all. Sankhya has got 25 tattvas. 24 tattvas, predominantly Prakriti tattvas. Prakriti, Prakriti Mahan, Mahato Ahankaraha, Ahankarat Panchatan Matrani. And then from these 7, Shodasakascha Vikaraha. So they speak of 24 tattvas. Prakriti, Prakriti is Mola Prakriti, Avikriti. That is unchanging. That is that which has not come out from anything. That Mola Prakriti. Mahadadya Prakriti Vikriti Sapta, Shodasakascha Vikaraha. And then one which is different and away from all these 24, Na Prakriti, Na Vikriti Purusha. Purusha, one who is neither Prakriti nor Vikriti, who is neither cause nor an evolute. So totally 25 are there, 24 Prakriti Tattvas, and 25th is Purusha Tattva. And they don't speak of Ishvara Tattva here. Where there is Ishvara Sankhya, one more will be there as Ishvara Tattva. So these 25 Tattvas are proposed by Sankhya. We don't find, since Ishvara Tattva is not there, we don't find a Brahma Tattva, that is Ishvara Tattva or Brahma Tattva proposed here. They don't accept, they don't propose the concept of Brahma. In fact, they don't speak of Brahman at all. They don't speak of Brahman at all as Jagat Karana Vastu. It is Prakriti independently evolving. Prakriti independently evolving, and then all the evolutes are coming out of Prakriti. That's what Sankyas have proposed. That's what Sankyas have accepted. So there is no Brahman at all. When there is no Brahman at all, how can we speak of this evolute, that is Shodhaka Vakya, and remaining as the Chaitanya alone? So in Advaita, Jiva, who is Vachyartha, that is physical limited Jiva, the individual soul, and Ishvara, the supreme soul. And then what is called, when we look into these two things, what is the real aspect of these two, then we try to understand, or we see the consciousness, mere consciousness, all pervasive, singular consciousness, as the idea communicated by these two. Now, Jiva, okay, Jiva is being the person, spiritual aspirant, one who is working for what is called moksha. As a mumukshu, Jiva is universal, all the people subscribe to. But with regard to Ishvara, Sankhya's do not propose or refer to the concept of Brahman at all. So Sankhya's concept can be Prakriti. Sankhya can say that is Prakriti is the ultimate cause. He can say Prakriti can be the ultimate cause, and if at all, if an identity is possible, whether Jiva and Prakriti, can there be an identity possible? Can we bring it identity into with the Prakriti at all? That's the question. Can it be possible? Will it be possible? And why it is not possible? The first question, we know Chandogya Sashtadhyaya, that is Sadvidya. The Sadvidya, Shvetaketu is taught by his father, Aruni. And Aruni says that is Shvetaketu wants to know. I mean, Aruni has proposed to him a tag, a riddle. Have you learned that particular idea? Knowing by which everything else can be known in this world. Everything can be known in this world. Shvetaketu was very curious and interested to know, and he wanted his father to teach him, and father starts. Sadeva Somya idam agra asid ekameva dvitiyam. Sat alone was there in the beginning. Sat is neutral gender word. So Sat alone was there. So Sat, he does not give any description of Sat or what can be Sat, etc. He does not say. Finally, he is going to say, you are that. You are that. Aidadatmya vidam sarvam tat satyam sa atma tattvamasi. So he is going to say that he is going to conclude his description, and he is going to conclude his instruction with this word. So he is going to identify Shvetaketu. Shvetaketu means Shvetaketu's underlying soul with Sat, only that much. But initially it starts Sadeva Somya idam agre asid. In the beginning, agre means before creation. Sat alone was there. The ultimate cause of the universe was Sat. So Sat being Pradhana, Sat being neutral gender, Pradhana also being neutral gender, you can say Sat and Pradhana can be one and same. Prakriti may be a reference, a corresponding reference to Purusha, hence he might have used the word Prakriti. So Sat can be interpreted in terms of Pradhana. Even though Sankhya does not use the word Brahman, Sat can be used in terms of Pradhana. And he can say this my Pradhana, this Sat is my Pradhana. We have to say this is Brahman, even though I don't use the word Sankhya. But can it be? Is it possible? Is it work? Will it work? That is a question. Because for him, the concept which with which Advaitin explains Brahman, all those things Sankhya also proposed to say. It is unique. Pradhana and Brahman both are unique, and it is singular, and it is the ground of the universe, because Pradhana is the ground of the universe for Sankhya, and Brahman is the ground of the universe for Advaitin. So it is the ultimate cause, it is a fundamental cause. So it is single substance, but one difference. The Pradhana is a complex substance, whereas Brahman is not a complex substance for Advaita. Pradhana is a complex, it is what is called the conglomerate of the three characters, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So it is a complex, but Brahman is not like that. Even though we say that at the time of creation, Maya gets associated with Brahman, Maya is a superimposed factor, and it does not make a complex Brahman or Brahman coming out of that Maya. It is not there. So in that respect, these two are different. In that respect, that is being complex, the Pradhana and Maya, Pradhana and Brahman are different. Not only that, Brahman is sentient, it is conscious. It is a consciousness, whereas Pradhana is insentient. Correspondingly, Purusha is the conscious object that is available elsewhere, whereas Brahman is always consciousness, and Pradhana is insentient principle. Accepting that, the consciousness and the complexity, accepting these two, the other characteristic, a unique, singular, pervasive, and the ground of the universe, all these things, they happen to be common for Pradhana and Brahman. Hence, he proposes Pradhana as the ultimate Jagat cause, the ultimate cause of the world. And now, let it be, ultimate cause of the world. Now let it be. But the Jiva is not what is called only one. The jiva comes from Brahman for an Advaitin, but all the different jivas, the multiplicity is manifestation, whereas multiplicity is true for Sankhya, Siddham Purusha Bahutvam. That is the idea proposed by Sankhya. So let us see. The beginning itself, we have seen the complexity and the sentience. That is the essential characteristic difference. And now, how does creation start? For Sankhya, the creation is a simple factor. When that's a time for creation, when pradhana is always within what is called movement. It is what is called just like our atoms. Out. But now what happens when Mahat comes out? Creation. Mahat Mahato Ahankara, Ahankarat Panchatanmatri, etc. It takes place. But in the Advaitic parlance, it's not a simple creation like that. It's not going to be Brahman is all pervasive. There is no activity or what is called Brahman vibrating within itself and then balance getting disturbed. All those concepts are not there in the Advaitic parlance. Number one, it is not that the vibration getting disturbed, balance getting disturbed, all those things are not there. Before commencing the creation, Brahman makes a sankalpa. Brahman thinks in order to show its sentience, Brahman thought to itself. It is that. So this disturbance, you have in Sankhya the disturbance of the vibrating, the pulse vibrating and the disturbance of balance. But here the disturbance is thought process. That is the heat. The heat is the thought. And the thought comes tadaikshata. It saw, it looked at, it had that sankalpa, tadaikshata, bahusyam, prajayeti. It thought within itself, let me be many. So this particular thinking of let me be many, that is Brahman thinking within itself, it can, because Maya is associated with Brahman, so it becomes Maya Sabala Ishvara. So it can think. So it thought that it is time for creation, let me be many. It made itself many. So this thought show it is sentience. That is essentially difference between Pradhana and Brahman. So Brahman is a sentient principle, and because it is sentient principle, it thinks, let me be many. That this thought process is not there in the case of Pradhana, and it does not make it a sentient one. So this is what the essential difference is. So this reflection becomes an important point. And the second point is the creation takes place. In Chandogya Upanishad, the creation is Trivritkarana, that is Tejo, Abhanna, Srishti, all those things. After describing all these things, it's time for manifestation of Jiva. And now what happens? At the time of Jiva, these are things. Anena Jivena Atmana Anupravisya Namarupe Vyakaravani. I will enter into this body in the form of Jiva. Let me be Jiva and let me make all the Namarupa Vyakarana. That is, let me give name and form to all the other objects. Let me identify all those things. So let me use the world. So the Sat enters into the body thinking or saying, let me enter into the body in the form of a Jiva. So Sat entering into the body as Jiva, Anena Jivena, Jiva Rupena. I will enter into the body, I will make myself Jiva. That is, I will become an individual Jiva. So the Sat becomes an individual Jiva. That means in the beginning itself, the Chandogya makes it clear that Jiva and Sat are one and the same. Sat enters into as Jiva and it starts doing all the Vyavahara. In Sankhya, Jiva is absolutely different. Na Prakritihi, na Vikriti Purushaha. Purusha is neither the cause nor the effect. He is not associated with the fundamental cause of the Sankhya, namely Pradhana. He is distinct from the beginning. He is distinct. So in the process of creation, Purusha is not associated with the Pradhana and he is not coming out of Pradhana. So there also there is differences. This creates another problem for Sankhya in the interpretation of Vedic passages. How did this particular context start, this discussion start? they seem to be arrogant. This particular person, that is Shvetaketu, seemed to be arrogant. When Shvetaketu seemed to be arrogant, what happened? Shvetaketu wanted to say the fundamental characteristic of education is humility, and Shvetaketu did not have it. In fact, there is another story. Bhartrhari wrote a big commentary on Mahabhashya, and he thought, by my commentary, Mahabhashya may become very popular. This commentary, Mahabhashya is not popular, many people have not studied it. This commentary will make it simpler for people to follow. This sort of humility, what is called lack of humility on the part of Bhartrhari, made his work unpopular, made his work non-available, they say. That is always the arrogance is the nightmare of scholars and students. Arrogance should not be there. Shvetaketu coming out with arrogance, puffed with pride, and his father wanted to teach him a lesson. So he asked him, have you learned that particular lesson by which you will be able to learn everything, by which there is no need for you to learn further? Being a student, definitely he will know well that all these things cannot be learned. Even though he has learned well many of the things, everything cannot be exhausted. He wanted to know that father is teaching him. So when you know the fundamental cause of the world, of the universe, from which everything has come out, then you will be knowing all the effects as much as know. The effects are as good as if you know the mud, the effects of the mud like pot, etc., are as good as know. This is the idea. So now, but the question is, there should be a fundamental one thing which should be the cause for all sentient and insentient things. So the pradhana is the cause for all insentient things, not sentient things. Jiva has not come out of that. Jivas are multiple, jivas are many, jivas are numerable, jivas are sentient, but totally different from pradhana. So by knowing pradhana, we may be able to know the evolutes of pradhana, but we may not be able to know the jivas. As the jivas are different, it may not be possible for us to know the jivas. So in this way, jiva is different. So jiva being different, anena jivena atmana anupravisya, when pradhana comes in the form of a jiva, it makes it clear, anena jivena atmana anupravisya, when sat enters into the body as jiva, jiva becomes part and parcel of sat, and by knowing sat, not only we will be knowing the sentient and the insentient objects, but the sentient jivas too. That also will be possible. But that may not be possible in the case of pradhana, as they make it distinct. So this particular anena jivena atmana anupravisya is to which the eka vijnana and sarva vijnana concept also tagged on. And finally, what happened? It is not just an ordinary statement. That is, you cannot say it is a metaphorical statement or it is an aupacharika statement. That is jiva pradhana, sat entering into the body as jiva, etc., cannot be dismissed as a metaphorical statement, because when the father concludes his instruction, he says, Aidadatmyam idam sarvam. All these things has got that sat as its atma, that is essential characteristic, inner thing. Aidadatmyam idam sarvam, tat satyam, that is the essential truth. Everything else is manifestation, everything else is apparent form elsewhere outside. And tattvamasi, thou art that. O Shvetaketu, you are that. So essentially, you have come from that, and then it can be, there is no problem, no difficulty in getting yourself or understanding yourself as identical with that. Tattvamasi, Shvetaketu. This is what he has said. So not only it started, Anena Jivena Atmana Anupravisya, but it also ends Tattvamasi. So commencement also, it starts, the Jiva comes from that, and end also is that one. So Eka Vijnana, not only Eka Vijnana and Sarva Vijnana, but also this particular concept. That is, this particular, essentially, the consciousness or Atma of the Jiva as well as of Ishvara are one. Hence, they can be identical. That also is presented. In this particular way, the what is called the Jiva and Ishvara. I should not use the word Jiva and Ishvara. Jiva and Ishvara are Vachyartha, and the underlying concept of consciousness, that is Lakshyartha. There is no Bedhaka Pramana. That is, this consciousness of Jiva and Ishvara cannot be differentiated. There is no Bedhaka Pramana. There is only one. Hence, they can be identical. In this way, this identity can be brought about So in order to bring about that identity, the nature, what is the true nature? Because the true nature is Sat alone, the Atman alone. And the Atman, along with the association of Maya, it becomes the cause, Maya Sabalam Brahma. That becomes the cause of the universe. And as the cause of the universe, Panchikarna Prakriya, Trivutkarna Prakriya, through that Prakriya, the universe is produced. All the material objects of the universe is produced, and the body also comes into existence. And this Sat permeates the body, and then it makes it alive. So we can understand that cause is the fundamental cause that is outside. That is the supreme cause that alone is there. That has come into this, and alone will remain as the essential part of Ishvara. That is the Advaiti concept. Now, in Sankhya, that is not there. Brahman is not presented. Pradhana is mere insentient object. So all the 4 points which I have taken from the Chandogya, and even in Mundaka, yes sarvajna sarvavite, Brahma vidapnoti param, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, all these aspects which are presented in different Upanishads like Mundaka Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishads, etc., they also go to prove that this particular idea is not acceptable. That is, the consciousness as the essential characteristic of Brahman is not presented by Sankhya's in his Pradhana. Hence, Pradhana being essentially an insentient one, they cannot identify with Brahman. And without Brahman, they cannot call themselves as Upanishada, that is following the Upanishad philosophy. Hence, this system also is not correct. That is, the Sankhya system is not what is called is not cannot be taken as Upanishad system in toto or in entirety. They may be following some ideas, but they are not totally, entirely an Upanishadic system. So, na Sankyam. So, na Sankyam, that is, na Sankyam. We can also say Vishuddhatmakatvat. So, Vishuddhatmakatvat means that Vishuddha is pure, Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. That is the identity for Vishuddha. Vishuddhatmakatvat, it should have Vishuddha Atma. So Vishuddha Atma, how should Atma means essential soul, inner soul. How should inner soul should be? Inner soul should be Vishuddha. Vishuddha means Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. So this Pradhana is not Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. It has got all the Sattva Rajas Tamas, etc. So since it is not having that Vishuddha Swabhava, it cannot be that Brahman. It cannot be even that Ishvara. It is just an instrument in the hands of Ishvara at best. So, na Sankyam, that is the Sankhya Pratipaditam Pradhanam, na Jagat Karanam, Vishuddhatmakatva. That Vishuddhatmakatva is not there. Vishuddhatmakatva abhavat. And then na Shaivam. Okay, let Sankhya philosophy not there. Can we not take Shaiva philosophy? That is the philosophy advocated by Shaiva Agamas, which proposes Pashupati. Pashupati as the supreme deity and as the creator god. Okay, let us consider and examine what happens in the case of Pashupati. The Pashupatas, that is the Saiva philosophers, are called Kevala Nimitta Karanams. That itself is the Advaita Vedanta philosophy is Abhinna Nimittopadana. That is Vedanta philosophy, they propose their cause simultaneously material cause as well as instrumental cause. Whereas for the Saiva people, they propose only the Nimitta Karana. That is, Ishvara is only a Nimitta Karana, and then Shuddha Maya and then Ashuddha Maya, all those things are there. They become the Upadana Karana. So, Pashu is different from Pati. That is, Pati is not creating Pashu. Jivas are eternal, Jivas are independent, but they are subservient on Pati. They have to worship. In this way, since these two are different, that is, Pashu and Pati are different, and since Pashu is always subservient to Pati, that also is not possible. Because if what is the problem? Another problem is here also, say, being the God, we can say he is Vishuddhatmaka, but what happens? The Jivas becoming Anu and the Vastu Paricheda willy-nilly is subscribed to by these people. When you accept two people as two things as eternal, When you accept two things as real, then what happens? Both of them cannot cut at each other. Both of them should be there. If both of them are there, if there are two things, then there will be, even though you say there is no Kala Paricheda, there is no Desha Paricheda, that is, it is all pervasive, it is an existing in all time, etc. Definitely, it cannot exist in all places because it cannot exist. Another Vastu is real and it cannot exist where that Vastu is there. So, Desha Paricheda also will be there. When there is Desha Paricheda, essentially it must admit of parts, and Kala Paricheda also will be given a go by. So what happens? The Parichedas will be there. Whatever is given, whatever undergoes Paricheda, whatever becomes limited, that cannot be eternal. So even in Pasupata doctrine, not only that concept of what is called identity is not possible, Shuddhachit, because of what is called the limitations, the Vishuddhatmakatva also will not be there. Hence, na Shaivam, they also cannot what is called subscribe to this idea. Natat Pancharatram. Pancharatra philosophy, more or less being an agamic philosophy, Pancharatra agamic philosophy, they all subscribe to Vasudeva as the supreme God. But there is one essential difference here with the Saiva philosophy. In the Saiva philosophy, they don't subscribe to Abhinna Nimittopadana concept. That is, Ishvara is Kevala Nimitta Karana and Upadana Karana is different. Whereas in Pancharatra philosophy, they accept Abhinna Nimittopadana. Simultaneously, Ishvara is Upadana and Nimitta, that is there. And Jiva also, Vasudeva Sankarshanaha Jayate. Sankarshana is representing Jiva. So when you say that Vasudeva Sankarshanaha, when he is coming, that is Jiva is coming from Ishvara. So in this way, Ishvara can be presented as essentially what is called comprehending Jiva too, or Jiva is coming from Vasudeva. But all those things are, the problem will be when Jiva is coming from, when you accept Jiva as an evolute of Brahman, then it becomes non-eternal. That is, it is not existing before and it comes later. In this way, eternity will be lost, and then all those things are real. So since they happen to be real, the evolute also must be real. In that case, then Vishuddhatmakatva will be lost because it cannot be Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. It will not be like that. When there is an evolute, Tattvantara Parinama and all those things will be there. That will create a disturbance and it cannot be accepted as eternal, and that also will be a problem. And Jaina, the Jainam, from Pancharatra, it comes Jainam. See, all these philosophies slowly have some connections. That is, you can see one evolving over the other like that, or one having some characteristics similar. Say Sankhya does not accept what is called the creator God. And Shaivam accepts a creator God who is a Nimitta Karana. And Pancharatram accepts a creator God who is both material as well as a Nimitta Karana. And Jainam, some of the concepts presented by Pancharatra are what is called presented in Jaina too. That is the Beda concept and things like that. So the Jaina also subscribes to the Beda concept. And then even though they accept everything as real, but in that real what happens? They accept Deha Parinami, Ishwar, that is Jiva, as multiple Jivas and Deha Parinami and all these things as Nitya. So that also will be a difficult thing to accept. Because if you accept Deha Parinami and Nitya and multiple Jivas, etc., that will have the problem of Vastu Paricheda. And as such, eternity will be lost. Even though we may say eternal, the eternal can be only at best a lip service. It cannot be real. So if something has to be accepted as eternal, the Trivida Paricheda should not be there. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. When you say Anantam, Kala Paricheda, Desha Paricheda, Vastu Paricheda, all the three Parichedas should not be there. So Sankyam Jagat Karanam, Sankhya Pratibaditam Pradhanam, na Jagat Karanam. Shaiva Siddhanta Pratipaditam Vastu, that is Ishvara, na Jagat Karanam. Pancharatra Pratipadita Ishvaraha, na Jagat Karanam. So all these things are not Jagat Karanam. They cannot be. And Jainas don't accept God, but they accept in the what is called the fundamental cause. And their fundamental cause is eternal. And na kadachit anidrisam jagate. The Jaina world also, the creation, that is the things manifest. And the creation is not there, In the same way, the creation is not there in the Mimamsaka. From Jaina, the next concept comes as Mimamsa. Na Mimamsakader Matamba. We will go into Adi first and then we will come to Mimamsaka. From Adi, they essentially take Nayayika. Nayayika and Vaiseshika is the commentators take Nayayikas and Vaiseshikas for Adi. What is Adi Nayayika? Nayayika also proposes a Jagat Karana, that is creator God. Without a God, the world cannot come into existence. But Nayayika says the Paramanus are the material cause and the Paramanus are made into the world by Ishvara. The Jivanam Karma Vasat, the Prani Karma Vasat, they say Prani Karma Vasat, Ishvarasya Sisriksha create appears in the mind of Ishvara. Ishvarasya Sisriksha Jayate. And by this Sisriksha, what happens? Paramanushu Kriya Jayate. So two Paramanus, they become what is called Dhyanuka. Two Paramanus join together. And from Dhyanuka, Trinuka, from Trinuka, Chatranuka, it's like that, it goes on. In this way, the creation goes on. Meru Sarshava, that is the difference between a small rye, that is a mustard seed, to Meru Parvata, everything is created. This is how Nayayika says, and he says, Chityankuradikam Sakartratkam Karyatvat Gatavat. All the things, Bhudharadikam, everything must have been having a creator, everything must be having, everything is created thing. Since all these things are created, since all these things appear to be created, there is parts have come, there must be a creator for all these things. And that creator, who can be the creator? They have Upada Tattad Upadana Gochara, Aparoksha Jnana, Chikirsha Kritimatvam. That is, the creator must be having the three characteristics. He must know the Upadana, Tattad Upadana. There is different material cause for different objects. Tattad Upadana Gochara. Aparokshakana, he must have the direct knowledge of all the Upadanas. He must have the direct knowledge of Upadanas, Tattad Upadana Gochara, Aparokshajnana, Chikirsha, a desire to handle it, Kritimatvam, and capacity to handle it. He must have all those characteristics. So with them, he creates. That is, since Ishvara has got, he is capable of handling all these things. Can there be in the world, we don't see all the objects being handled by only one? For the sake of convenience, it will be better if you accept one. That's Nayayika's argument. Okay, let us accept Ishvara is one. But Ishvara is different. He is Kevala Nimitta Karana only, and the material cause is Paramanu, and he is Nitya Jnanavan. Ishvara has got Nitya Jnana and all this. Since Ishvara being Nitya, his Jnana also is Nitya. Whereas in the case of Jiva, the Jnana is not eternal. The Jnana is not Nitya. He is not of a Jnana nature. His nature is not Jnana, because Atma Manasa Samyujite Mana Indriyana Indriya Varthena Tata Pratyaksham. Knowledge comes as a product. It is an incidental product. It's an adventitious characteristic for him. All the characteristics are adventitious for him. Even though they are considered to be the characteristic, that is, Sukha, Dukkha, Icha, Dvesha, Prayatna, Dharma, Dharma, all these things, the characteristic of Atman, no doubt about it, but they are all produced. They are not the essential characteristic, always essentially existing with him. So, some differences, because Kama, Sankalpa, Shraddha, Krasraddha, all those things are spoken as of Sarvam Manayeva Brigadarannika. They don't propose it as Mana. They speak it as different. So, in this way, there is a difference, no doubt about it. But here also the difference is there. Jiva is different, Paramatma is different, and the essential characteristic is not knowledge. It's only an adventitial property. So this is fundamentally different. This is what not proposed by Upanishads. Hence, this theory also is that Visuddhatmakatva, that character, Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava, that cannot be, they can say, but essentially it cannot be there. And Vastu Paricheda also is there. Hence, the Nityatva cannot be there. So, Nayayika system also, the God proposed in Nayayika system too, cannot satisfy the ultimate cause of all the things. Not only that, he is not the cause of Jiva, and there are certain Nitya Padarthas in the Dravya, etc., accepted by Nayayikas, that is, Akasa, Kala, Dik, Atma, and Ishvara is not the cause of all those things. So Eka Vijnana in Sarva Vijnana cannot be satisfied in the Nyaya philosophy and all those things. Then comes the Mimamsaka philosophy. The Mimamsa philosophy has got another problem here. Mimamsa philosophy speaks of Karya Vyutpatti. Karya Vyutpatti is they accept Veda, that is, Veda is Shabda Pramana, and Shabda Pramana is Pada Padartha Sambandha, from that is Pada Samohaha Vakyam, and from Pada you get Padartha Smaranam, and then the what is called Padarthas, with the help of Padartha or through the Vyapara of Padartha, there is an association of Padas. There is Vakyartha Maryada, Samsarga, whatever it may be, and they call it Anvida Vidhanavada, Vihidanvayavada, something like that. So in this way, the concept is words are arranged, words are associated, and then you get a connected meaning from a sentence. This connected meaning is get from a sentence, and then we get an idea. What sort of an idea we can get it? That is, what sort of an idea is possible? Can we get the idea about God? So now we are speaking of God only. So when the Mimamsaka speak of that, can we get an idea of God? Here comes Mimamsaka's tag. They say all the Laukika ideas, that is the mundane ideas, they can be obtained from the other pramanas like Pratyaksha and Anumana, and only transcendental ideas or that which are not mundane alone can be obtained from Veda, and Veda can give only sadhya, that is what is to be achieved, what is to be created, what is to be produced. Bhutam bhavyaya upadishyate. So if something is to be, whatever idea is given, existing objects are given, the existing objects are given as different karakas for something to be brought into existence. So the injunctive statements, ling lot late tavya pratiya, this is what they say, ling lot late tavya pratiya. These are all injunctive suffixes. That so only these becomes the essential or central idea. All the other ideas are not central. They become shesha, vidhi shesha. This is the word they use. Vidhi shesha. They will be tagged to. They become meaningful or they become relevant only in association with an injunction. If independently taken, they are not meaningful at all. This is what they say. Say, for example, in the Upanishad, some statements are there. Yes, Sarvajna, Sarvavidi, Yasya Jnanamayam Tapaha. It describes Brahman, Sarvajnaha, Sarvavidi, and Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, etc. They don't speak of Brahman, they say. Mimamsaka say these statements, they don't speak of Brahman. We can say at best, these are eulogies of Jiva. These can be taken as eulogies of Jiva. Say there are sacrifices. The sacrifice is performed by an Yajamana, a Jiva, and in the sacrifice, they invoke deities. So these statements which speak of Brahman or which speak of different gods or which speak of Atman, etc., they can be appropriately associated with a Jiva or a deity as eulogizing them, or some other aspects of connected with the sacrifice, like Atmanam Upasi. There are some such statements, meditation statements, and they can be associated with that, and they become meaningful only as submitting the ideas for the action, and independently they are not meaningful. They even go to the extent of saying not only Jiva or what is called deity, even Paramanu, they also accept Paramanu. Paramanu, what happens? From Paramanu, the objects are produced. So these eulogistic statement can be tagged on to Paramanu also. But it is not a joke or ordinary statement. We find some of the stories, that is the description, in the traditional works, we find the life history of various poets and various scholars and various things and other people describe. Yeah, one of the two great logicians are, there are many, but two great logicians are Jagadisa and Gadadhara. So what happens when we study the works on logic, it is Jagadisas and Gadadharas, or Gadadhari and Jagadisi. They are considered to be the ultimate on logic. And Gadadhara is that is Vyutpatiwada and all those books which he had written, and the commentary on Tattva Chintamani and Raghunathas Dididi. That Gadadhara is what is called, he is in his last days. He was what is called sick on lying on the bed. And some of his friends or devotees or fans have gone nearby and attending on him and asking him, what do you think of? At least at the last moment, at least in his deathbed, the people around him, they think Gadadhara may say the name of a god. But the story, the life history of Gadadhara is he was saying Paramanu, Paramanu, Paramanu. Say the Paramanu is on the position of God, and some of the statements which eulogize Paramanu, some of the statements of Jagat Karana eulogize Paramanu, also say to us description of Gadadhara saying Paramanu even at the last moment give us the idea that this should be actually they should be thinking, they should be proposing these particular ideas, etc. That becomes an idea that is important concept. So and the Jiva Stavakam or Devata Stavakam, and they don't accept that Brahman as the Jagat Karana. Since the Jagat Karana Vastu itself is not there, since the Upanishads speak of Jagat Karana, the Mimamsaka Matam also is not correct. Of course, to what is called a round of the argument, Amnayasya Kriyartatvad Anartakyam Atadartanam. This is what Mimamsakas, that is entire Amnaya. Amnaya means Veda. Kriyartatvad, since it is essentially towards Kriya, since it is essentially towards injunction, and all the other things can be tagged on to that. This is what they have said. And for so that is Nirakanksha for them. These statements do not have any idea independently, they don't have an idea, so they cannot have any meaning. This is what Mimamsaka's statement. But Advaitins should say Vedanta Vakya, from Vedanta Vakya, it is not like that. You get Sakshat Ananda Prapti. That is, you get Brahmajnana. Once if you get Brahmajnana, from the Brahmajnana, Avidya Nivritti happens. With Avidya Nivritti, Ananda Prapti takes place, and the Dukkha Nivritti also takes place. And that is the most important. That's the most important the human end, Purushartha. So all the Purusharthas are Purushaihi Arthyate. Dharma, Artha, Kama, etc. are sought after by human beings, whereas Moksha is Arthaniya, that which is to be sought after. That is being proposed by Upanishad, and that becomes essential. And your Vidhi gets tagged on to this Vedantic statement as providing Chitta Suddhi. Karma is performed for Chitta Suddhi, hence karma, all your Kriyartha gets tagged on to Vedantic statement for the sake of Chitta Suddhi, and it is not, you cannot tag on these Yasarvagya, Sarvavidya, etc., such a statement, the statement describing Brahman, etc., as you cannot tag them on along with Kriyartha. So Kriyartha, they have got only provisional relevance or provisional useful. As long as people are performing within the world, performing something for some benefit, you can have it. But once they get Vairagya, they don't have any value, and their value will be only towards Chitta Suddhi, and they will only lead towards Sravana Manana, Nididhyasana, etc. to get the permanent benefit, namely Jnana, and thereby Ananda, Nitya Niratishaya Ananda. So the Mimamsaka view also is not very perfect, very correct. Everything has got their provisional value, but lasting value or permanent value will not be there. Hence, na Mimamsakadehe Matamba. Adi, by Adi we have taken Nayayika view. Why? Visishtanubhutya Vishuddhatmakatvat. So it is Vishuddhatmaka. Vishuddhatmaka means the Suddha, Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. And the Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava is not a simple statement. It is Vishishta Anubhutya. Anubhuti means direct experience. Those people who have what is called the practices Sravana Manana Nididhyasana, they have experienced this Brahmajnana. And by thereby, not only they have experienced this Brahmajnana, They also have the what is called Nitya Niratisaya Ananda Jnana, and Mundakopanishad also says Vidyate Hridaya Grantihi Siddhyante Sarva Samshayaha Shiyante Chasya Karmani Tasmin Drishte Paravare. So that Paravara can be seen. That is, Paravara can be realized. So that Paravara realization happens here itself. Vishishtanubhutya, that word Vishishta. Vishishta means distinct, special. The distinct special is Akhandanubhava, Akhanda Vakyartha, and all those things. Hence, that is Vishishta, distinct, special Anubhuti. That sort of Anubhuti is there. That sort of Anubhuti cannot be questioned. Hence, that Vishishtanubhuti is there very much. Vishuddhatmakatvat. We know that it is Vishuddhatmaka through our Vishishtanubhuti. Hence, the Sankhya, etc., those things do not satisfy. Their view is not correct. So they propose that what is the meaning of it? When they say their view is not correct, it is not a rejection of just Sankhya, etc. The Sankhya concept of ultimate cause, Saiva concept of ultimate cause, Pashupata concept of ultimate cause, Jaina, Mimamsaka, Nyaya concept of ultimate cause, those ultimate causes are don't stand. So the ultimate cause must be as proposed by Vedanta, and it should be just Satyam Jnanam Ananta. That Swarupa should be the ultimate cause. So that Satyajnana Ananta Ananda Swarupa, which is Visuddhatmaka, that can be experienced. Visishtanubhuti. So Visishtanubhuti is not merely proposed in text. If we work for it, that Visishtanubhuti can be experienced, that cannot be explained, that cannot be presented by words, that cannot be described by means of terminologies. That has to be understood. Tadeko Vasishtaha, when everything else is rejected. When Sankhya view is rejected, when Pashupata view, when Jaina view, everything is rejected, what remains? Ekaha, Avasishtaha, what remains is Shivaha. That is always Mangala Rupa. Mangala Rupa means always permanent, eternal, undisturbable, and indestructible. Shivaha, Kevalaha, that alone, nothing else. So Aham, I am that one. This is what he has identified himself to his Guru, Govinda Bhagavad Pada. So this presents how the Supreme God is, he also remains the one. That's presented in that particular concept. And then next one is taken up. The same idea, but we have to present, because all the people are not just going to accept whatever is presented. Why? Say, you can say all these things are not there, etc. No doubt about it. But as long as Ishvara is there, we have, how can you say that Jiva is Suddha Chinmatra? So the Ishvara also is Suddha Chinmatra. That is presented. So when Ishvara is there, when Jagat Karana Ishvara is there, that is some of the theistic philosophers. When the Jagat Karana Ishvara is there, how can you take Jiva alone? Jagat Karana Ishvara also must be provided for. That's not there. That's not needed. This is what we have presented in the 4th verse. But there are some of the Upanishadic statements. The Upanishadic statement says, that is Anoraniyan, that is Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan Atma Guhayam Nihitosya Janto. In the Katopanishad, this Vakya is there. Anuhu. He is presented as Anu. Katopanishad speaks of Anu. Saya Yesho Anima. Chandogya Upanishad also says Saya Yesho Anima. And Vrihirva, that is, he is what is called smaller than Vrihi, Yava, and all those things. Angushta Matra Purushaha Madhya Atmani, that is, he is of the size of the thumb, the infinitesimal one. Aragra Matro Hyavaro Vidrishtaha, Shvedastra. That is, it is not just one Upanishad. It is multiple Upanishads saying different places. So, when Brahman is described as atomic, Brahman is not, so why we quote so many Upanishads? It is not that all the Upanishads are saying Brahman is atomic, etc. It is not going, the multiplicity is, many of the Upanishads propose the idea. If you just take only one Upanishad, one quotation, if only one quotation is available, not that I'm saying only one Upanishad is quoted, when we say that only one Upanishadic passage is available, we can say it is metaphorical or it is with a different intention, etc. When you find in so many Upanishads, it is available in Brihadaranyaka, it is available in Chandogya, it is available in Kata, it is available in Shveta Sutra. So when these statements are available in so many Upanishads, and when the so many Upanishads are presenting this particular view as atomic in size, Anoraniyan, it is smaller than even the smallest atom. And Aniyan, Vriherva, Shyamakadva, Yavadva, that is smaller than all the smallest grains, like that. When it says, that means Atma is atomic in size. That is, Ishvara also is an atomic in size. When Ishvara is an atomic in size, when it is presented by so many Upanishads, that means the Upanishads speak of intentionally, speak of with stress, and they speak the truth. It cannot be dismissed as simple eulogistic and euphoristic statement, something like that. So you have to accept multiplicity of Jiva, multiplicity of Atman, and Ishvara also is atomic in nature. That has to be accepted. Then how can it be all pervasive? Vyapakatva akhandaika rupaha tadeko vasishta shiva kevaloham. So what about the statements of these Upanishads? Shankara takes up in the next shloka, and he presents it, whether it is possible. Nachordvam, nacha urdhvam. That is, Atman is not there above. Nachadaha, not below. Nachantaha, not within. Na bahyam, not outside. Na madhyam, not in the center. Na tiryak, not crosswise. Na purva paradik, neither east nor west. Vyad vyapakatvat, vyad vyapakatvat, vyadvat vyapakatvat. It means vyadvat vyapakatvat. That is, it is all pervasive like sky, all pervasive like the space. Akhandaika rupaha, akhanda eka rupaha, impartite. Akhanda means impartite. Eka rupaha, of only one. It is singular. So when you say atomic, it becomes multiple. Atomic means it is, when you even, not even atomic, when you say small, it becomes so many. Atomic means so many, multiple. So what happens? Akhandaika rupaha, vyadvyapakatva, akhandaika rupaha, tadeko vasishtaha, shiva kevalokam. Tat ekaha avasishtaha, finally we say, tat ekaha avasishtaha, shivaha kevalaha aham. I am that one only. What is remaining when you reject everything, when everything is negated, finally what remains? That alone is myself. This is what Shankara has stated in this particular shloka. And the reference is very simple. All these statements are presented, that is Anoraniyan, etc. They are presented in the sense of not simple. It is very small. It is infinitesimal, etc. It is presented in the sense of what is called. It is presented in the sense of subtle. It is too subtle. It is cannot be grasped by us. It cannot be understood by us. It cannot be grasped by us. So, what is Anu? Anu is the smallest thing. Anu is the smallest thing. Remember, the difference between Anu in the Indian philosophy and the difference between Western philosophy is this. Initially, people will be in the West, the Western science, they say Anu is indivisible. Anu cannot be broken. That is very smallest one. And somebody said sometimes Anu has been broken. So when Anu has been broken, atom has been broken, that has been accepted, atom is breakable and it has been broken. And final, not only that, a few particles are found out. And furthermore, those particles are subatomic particles. Now we have got a special subject called subatomic particles, and we are going further deep into not only just a few, but that goes into hundreds, 100 plus particles. So much of things are there, what is called packed within atom. The atom which we consider the smallest one, which is not having anything, that is packed with so much of material. That is something different. But the same thing, does it not happen here? Okay, when you say that Anu is broken, the Indian philosophy will say, what we have understood, we don't say that Anu is broken. What we have understood as Anu is different. All along we have been mistaking something as Anu, atom, but if you define Anu as unbreakable, the unbreakable thing alone should be there. You have to find out, you have to come out with such an unbreakable thing, and that unbreakable thing alone can be Anu. So our definition is what is called, our interpretation is wrong. We have applied the definition to a wrong object. So we have to go further into it, where it is indivisible. We have to go further till such time or till such an object to find out really indivisible object. And that alone can deserve the term Anu, and not that which can be divisible. That is, we have not come across, since we don't have an instrument to break that object, we consider it is indivisible. If we get an instrument to break that, then it will cease to be an Anu. In the absence of breaking it, we call it Anu. Once we what is called break it, it ceases to be Anu. That is like that, only that much. So Anu means it should not have a further object into it. We should not be able to go further down into it. If you have to go further down into it, how can it define itself as an Anu? Anu means it should not have anything inside. It does not have magnitude. It does not have any, no two-dimensional, three-dimensional, nothing of that sort. If all those dimensions are there, it ceases to be Anu. So now, if that Anu were to be there, how can you have something within that Anu? If something were to be within that Anu, that's why in Advaita, we have got the concept of superimposition. If something were to be within that Anu, Anu ceases to be Anu. So nothing can permeate Anu. Even if the God is great, the things, the objects like Anu, etc., can be superimposed. So it cannot be permeating one. So nothing can permeate it. It does not have space to allow something to permeate. So Anu cannot permeate. So when you say Anoho Aniyan, which is smaller than the smallest atom, when you use the word smaller than the smallest atom is that which does not allow anything to go into it, anything to permeate it. Nothing can exist in it. So if that were to be the case, if nothing can permeate, nothing can go into it, how can Atma go into it? How can the Paramatma go into it? How can Paramatma exist into it? Not possible. So the word Paramatma going into it, Anoho, Anuyana, etc., can only be mean it is not it's not going into it, but it is too subtle. So this word Anoha Aniya is a statement, euphoristic statement, a metaphorical statement presenting Atma is very, very subtle. It is not only Anoha Aniya. The immediate next passage is Mahato Mahiyan, bigger than what is big. The biggest thing in the world is space. And it is bigger than the space. Purusha Sukta says, Atyatishta Dashangulam, he transgresses it by 10 inches. Tripad Urdhva Udait Purushaha, that is the create the whole universe. One-fourth of that Purusha has become the universe. And Purusha crossed the universe. It is bigger than the universe by 3/4. It does not mean 3/4 and 1/4. We can that is the universe is 1 lakh light years from this side to this end to that end, and the Purusha must be 4 lakh light years. Like that, we will not be able to what is called define, or we will not be able to measure Purusha, because in one place it is Atyatishta Dasangulam, in another place is Tripadurda Udait Purushaha. So it is not exact number, but Purusha is greater than Tasmad by Tasmad Atmana Akasa Sambhuta. Even the space has come from that. So it defines space has come from that. If that were to be the case, if space has come from that particular thing, then what will say? You cannot have anything. That is, you cannot have these things as the superior things. So whatever is presented as the greatest thing. In the Satapada Brahmana, you have got Jyayanva Akashat. That is, it is bigger than Akasha. So the biggest what is called the thing, or the thing which is largest in the universe is Akasha. Akasha also alone is extensive, because Akasha means space. Everything in this world has to exist. For them to exist, space is required. And the space must be provided by the space. Space has to provide space for all the things. That's why space. What is the meaning of akasha? Avakasha pradam akasam. That which provides space is called akasha. So akasha provides space for everything. So when akasha provides space for everything, space must be big because it has space for everything. And this Atman is bigger than that space. That's why I say Akasavat Sarvagatascha Nityaha. Another Upanishad statement, Akasavat Sarvagatascha Nityaha. This Atma is Sarvagata, is all pervasive, Nitya, eternal, Akasavat, like Akasha. That does not mean it is as big as Akasha. The biggest thing which we can imagine, the biggest thing which we can experience in the world is, the universe is Akasha. Hence, they say Atman is, as for our imagination, for us to grasp, they say Akashavat. It is bigger than Akasha also. Another statement is the Jayanva Akasha. It is bigger than Akasha. In this way, it is presented. So now what happens? What is available above? That is as if the soul is above. Nachodvam, Nachadaha. And you cannot say the individual soul means we are looking into ourselves, looking at our chest. So Urdvam, Adaha, and then Nachantaha, Na Bhakyam, inside, outside, and then Namadhyam, Natiryank, Na Purva Paradik, eastern, western directions, etc. Vyad Vyapakatvat. It is Vyad Vyapaka. Vyad Vyapaka means Vyadvat Vyapaka, or it is Vyatopi Vyapaka. It is greater than Akasha, or it is as great as Akasha. Vyad Vyapakatva Akhandaika Rupaha. And this is the point here. Akhandaika Rupaha. It is Akhanda Eka Rupa. Even Akasha, space, we say it is Sakshi Bhasya. Say, for example, Akasha is single, no doubt about it, is Akhanda and all those things. But it is not eternally Nitya. It also at the end of Pralaya, everything has to go away. It also has to go away. And Akasha also has to come into existence. Akasha is created being. Akasha also becomes Tasmad Vai Tasmad Atmana Akasha Sambhutaha. So in this way, it is not Ananta. It is not Ananta. So now what happens? Akhandaika Rupaha. And Brahman is something greater than Akasha, different from Akasha, fundamentally distinct from Akasha. Is called Akhanda Eka Rupaha. It is Akhanda and Eka Rupa. So Akhandaika Rupaha. Tadeko Vasishtas Siva Kevalokam. So this Brahman cannot be defined, or Brahman cannot be presented in terms of all these things. That is in terms of worldly things. So when everything is rejected, you say that is nothing is available. When everything is rejected, okay, let us say Shunya. Then everything is rejected, nothing is there. Shunya is there. But how can we say Shunya is there? There should be some witness for Shunya, isn't it? Unless there is a witness for Shunya, one will not be able to say Shunya is there. So there is a witness. Without a witness, not even Shunya will be available. Without a witness, not even Shunya can be proposed. So when everything is rejected on a substratum, savadikaha, on something. Say, for example, there are 3 objects in, generally there are many objects, but 3 important objects. The objects are Jnana, and then Sadrisya, Abhava. This Jnana, Sadrisya, and Abhava, these things we have to propose, or these things are talked about in terms of Pratiyogi and Aniyogi. Say, when you say something is not there, you have to say what is not there, where it is not there. You cannot simply say something is not there. So when you speak of Shunya, Shunya of everything, okay, where it is. So Savadika, all these things have got some substratum on which everything is negated. And that substratum also, because Shunya means substratum also should not be there. But the substratum becomes witness. So on the witness, everything is not there. So the witness alone is there. Only when the witness is there, then you will say Shunya is there. If witness is not there, you cannot say Shunya. How can you say that when somebody is not there, when someone is not there to witness, How can you say everything is not there? There can be more things. So the Shunya becomes Sakshika. So what happens? Tadeko Vasishtaha, that Sakshi, which becomes Shunya, which becomes witness to Shunya. Tadeko Vasishtaha, that Sakshi alone remains. Avasishtaha, he remains as Sakshi for everything. That Tadeko Vasishtaha, that Sakshi, that cannot be, if you cannot say Sakshi is not there. Even if Sakshi were to go out of existence, there should be Sakshi that the Sakshi has gone out of existence. So there should always be a Sakshi. Without Sakshi, nothing can be proved, nothing can be proposed, nothing can exist. So Sakshi should be there. Since it is Sakshi for everything, it becomes Shivaha. Shivaha means always existing, Mangala Surupaha in that sense. That is, it does not go out of existence. In that word, Shivaha and Kevalaha, and this is Kevala Sakshi alone, nothing else, no characteristics. So hence Kevalaha. At best, I can be that only. So this is how Acharya had proposed this particular concept. And now another concept, that is with regard to this Atman, another concept is brought into existence. What is this concept? You say this Brahman is the fundamental cause. Nachordvam, nacha urdvam, urdvam means above, nacha urdvam, nacha adaha, it's not below, adaha means below, nacha antaha, antaha means inside, not inside, na bahyam, not outside, all these things are indeclinals, na madhyam, not in the central part, in just mere inner can be anything. Madhyam means in the central core idea of whatever is the central which supports everything. Na madhyam, na tiryak, tiryak means crosswise, na purva paradhik, that is whether it is in the eastern direction, western direction, etc. Biyad vyapakatvat, Vyadvat Vyapakatvat. Vyad is space, Vyapaka is pervasive. So Vyad Vyapaka is a compound. So Vyadvat Vyapaka, Vyad Vyapaka. Akhandaika Rupaha, because it is presenting as Atma. Akhanda Eka Rupaha. Akhanda imparted, Eka one, Rupaha of the form. Tadeko Vasishtaha, Shiva Kevaloham. The Upanishads, they what is called, the Upanishads presents these characteristics. The Upanishadic statement for the Purusha is Saya Yesho Anima. That is that which is Anima. Clearly we can understand the word Anima. Anima is used in the sense of infinitesimal, but it is used in the sense of subtle. Anor Aniyan. It is Kathopanishad. Anoho Aniyan. That is smaller than smallest atom. Angushta Matra Purushaha. Angushta Matraha is Angushta is generally our thumb. It is not that which tongue. The Dakrameva Binunam, that is Dakram Vipapam Paramesh Mubutam Yatpunda Rekam Paramadhyasagvista. That is Dakram means the smallest space within the heart. That is considered to be smallest space within the heart, where the Antakarana is there, where Atman gets reflected. So that smallest, because that smallest place is generally defined Angushta Matraha. That is one's own thumb size like that. Angushta thumbnail, you can say modern that YouTube, you have got thumbnail picture and all those things. So to present the thumbnail picture for each and every individual, that is the thumbnail. So in order to present this thumbnail concept, perhaps the thumbnail concept might have been present even in those days. They might have used the word Angushta Matra Purushaha. That also is coming from another Upanishad. And Aragra Matro Hyavaropi Drishtaha. Aragra Matraha, smallest space, that is the tip of the spoke. And the smallest than the tip of the spoke, etc. And how Brahman is presented in Mundagopanishad. See, these are all the statements which are presenting Atman as the smallest, infinitesimal, etc. But Brahman is presented all pervasive correspondingly. Let us see in the Mundagopanishad. Brahmai Vedam Amritam. Everything is Brahman. Brahmai Vedam Purastad. So Brahma is in the eastern direction or Brahman is the friend. Brahma Paschat. Brahma is in the western direction or Brahma back. Purva Paradik. That you can just imagine that. Dakshina Dascha Uttarena in the Upanishad, the south and north. Dakshina Dascha Uttarena. Adascha Urdhvam Prasiddham. It is below and above. Brahmai Vedam Vishwamidam Varishtam. Brahma, that is the entire universe is Brahma Varishta. That is the greatest and best of the Brahman. This is presented in Mundaka, and Brihadaranyaka also says this. Tadetat Brahma Apurvam Anaparam. It does not have below before and does not have later. That is, there is Brahman does not have a cause from which it can come into existence. It is there even before everything coming into existence. It permeates. There is no time in which it was not there. It was not that it was not existing in the past. It was not that it will not exist in future. So apurvam anaparam na apurvam. That is, it was not there, not in purva. Anaparam, it was not there later. That is, it is going out of existence. That is also not there. Anantaram avakyam. So you can find in the Mundakopanishad statement and Brihadaranyaka statement, whatever words are used, apurvam, anaparam, anantaram, abakyam, and adaha, urdhvam, Dakshina, Uttara, Purva, Paschat, all these things are used by Shankara also in this particular. In Shankara's Ashtotra, the word Ashtavarsha Chaturvedine Namaha. He has learned all the 4 Vedas within 8 years. So, Nachordam. Nachadaha, Nachantaha, Nachabakyam. All the statements available in the Mundaka and Brihadaranyaka are available here. And the Purva Paksha, which is understood, that is from Kathopanishad. And Kathopanishad, Shweta Sudra, Chandogya, etc. So these Upanishads presents those ideas. The Purva Paksha ideas are presented there, they are understood. And this sloka is taken as an answer for the Purva Paksha. But the sloka uses the words of Mundaka and Brihadaranyaka. So this is Nachordvam, Nachantaha, Nachantaha, Nabakyam, Namadyam, Natiriyak, Napurva Paradhik, Vyadvyapakatva, Akhandaika Rupaha, Tadeko Vasishtaha, Shiva Kevaloham. And next, if, that is 6th verse, Na Shukram, Na Krishnam, Na Raktam, Na Pitam, Na Kubjam, Na Peenam, Na Hraswam, Na Dirgham, Arupam, Tata Jyotirakara Tadeko Vasishtaha, Shiva Kevaloham. Here, another important question. What is this particular question? This question is, you say Brahman is everything, Brahman is all pervasive, Brahman is the cause of everything. Okay. Then one problem comes. If Brahman were to be the cause of everything, okay, Brahman is Upadana Karana, and the whole world, Prapancha, is effect, Karya. But how is the Karya? Karana and Karya, Karyam Nidana, Diguna Nadite. Sriharsha says in this Naishada, Karyam Nidanadhi Guna Nadite. Karyam is an effect. Nidana means Karana. From the Karana, Karyam, Gunan means its characteristics. Adite is generally learned, but it takes. So a Karya will completely and totally follow, adhere to, or will be. That is, it takes all its characteristics from Karana. The characteristics of Karana will be available in the Karya. So Karana and Karya, there will be agreement in their characteristics. So if there is a Karya Karana Bhava, the agreement of characteristic must be there. So if Brahman and Jagat were to be the Karana Karya, that is Brahman were to be Karana and Jagat were to be Karya, the characteristics of Karya must be available in Karana. What are the characteristics of Karya? The characteristics of Karya are misery, essentially pain and suffering. The pain and suffering happen to be the characteristic. World is always same. For example, how does Sankhya Karika starts? Dukkhatraya bhigatad, jignasa tata paghatake heto. So the goal of all the human being is, they first of all we have to realize. We cannot, unless we realize there is a suffering, we will not be able to. So everywhere there is, if you take Buddhism, Jainism, etc., or even any philosophy, first of all, what is called The samsara must have dukkha. First of all, that we have to recognize. Unless we understand what is dukkha, then we will not be what is called proceeding towards elimination of dukkha. Dukkha trayabhigata, and the Sankhya defines it, dukkha trayabhigata. The whole world, that is whole existence, whole universe, is abhigata, is struck with. It is not only just struck with abhigata, it is not, gata itself means struck. What is abhigata? Continuously getting struck. It is not just what is called getting struck once or twice, it is continuously getting struck. That is, there is no other thing other than dukkha. So the dukkha is there continuously. It is onslaught of dukkha. It is continuous falling of dukkha. So that's why it is the word abhigata is used. It is not only severely hit, but it is being continuously hit without let or hindrance. So such being the case, hit by what? Dukkha traya. The dukkha traya generally we define it as adhyatmika, adi bhautika, adi daivika. So what is the Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika? They characterize it in different ways. One is Adhyatmika is physical. Adi, it is what is called Abhibhava compound. So in a particular sense, the word prepositions Adi, etc. are added to words. Atmani iti Adhyatmam. So when you say something, you can use the word Atmani in the Atman. But instead of saying in the Atmani in the seventh case form, we can use the word Adhyatma also. So Adhyatma means in Atman. So now what happens? Adhyatmam. From Adhyatman or pertaining to Adhyatman is Adhyatmika. It develops into a new word, only that much. So pertains to body. Atman is body. Satmendriya Manoyuktam in the Kathopanishad. The word Atman can be used in different senses. Atman, Atmanam Atmanya Avalokayantam, Kumar Sambhava. There Atman used the word in the Atman is used in the sense of mind. Atmanaha Pustakam, it is my book, it is the book of himself. That is the book of, it is his book. It can be used as a pronoun. Atmendriya Manoyuktam. When you say Atmendriya Manoyuktam, Atma is there used in the sense of Sharira. So the word Atma has got many meanings. So now what happens? In this word Adhyatma, the word Atma is used in the sense of Sharira. Any pain coming through body. Any pain coming through body. Pleasure also is a pain. If you go on enjoying something, it gives problem to our sense organs and body. So that's why in Panchadasi, Vidyaranya says, pleasure, enjoying pleasure also is a work. So what happens? Adhyatma means physically any pain or pleasure which is present physically in our body and ourselves experiencing it. Physical experience. What is Adi Bhautika? Adi Bhautika, normally they say what is called pertaining to natural phenomena, like what is called rains, etc., heavy rains, unbearable rains, or some such things, the earthquake and things like that, pertaining to natural phenomena. But there is another interpretation also. This interpretation is a knowledge of suffering. Something was there. Say, for example, if some what is called creature or insect has entered into the house, and we lose our patience, we lose our peace unless the creature is got out. If somebody were to say it has gone out, it has gone, something like that, we will not be able to sleep properly. Wherever it is, what it may raise its head, or wherever it may suddenly come, something like that. So the knowledge of disturbing factor is there in the house does not give us a peace of mind. We might not have seen it, we might not know it. Somebody might have said something has entered, something is there, some problem is there. So the knowledge of the what is called the problem, the knowledge of existence, it is not actually present, it is not actually disturbing, but the knowledge of it. So when there is a knowledge of something present, unless that is removed, unless that is taken out, unless that is what is called eschewed, we lose our peace of mind. So through knowledge, through the knowledge of existence, through the idea of existence, through the imagination of existence, when something gives a when presents a problem, that is called Adi Bhautika, the Bhutas. And then Adi Daivika. Daivika means something may be there. It is not even actual existence. Say, for example, a house is locked for a long time. It's not taken, nobody has opened it, nobody has entered into it. And whether somebody wants to take it for rent or anything like that, then suddenly somebody creates a rumor. That is, it may be so long it is closed. So it may become a haunted house also. So we starts imagining expectations. It may become. So in this way, actual presence and the knowledge of the presence and the expectation, it may happen. So these three things give us problems. This is how an interpretation also is made: Adhyatmika, Adi Bautika, Adi Devika, and then the other things through natural calamities. Adi Bautika is natural calamities, and Adi Devika is through portents, like what is called comets, etc. The comets can portend some difficulties, some problems. So portents. So in this way, Adi Devika is taken as, because Deva is also Devagnya. Deva is taken as astrological and what is called the predictions and all those things related to. So it can refer to portents, but all these things are interpretations for these three types of sufferings. So all the sufferings are classified by three groups. So these sufferings are there, but sufferings are there. Sufferings are there in the world. Cannot be totally free. Brahman cannot be totally free. Brahman also must be having some sort of suffering. Brahman must be having the material caste. Brahman is the material cause of the world, and since the material material effects of the world is having this particular suffering, the cause also must be having the suffering. And when the cause is having the suffering, now the Advaitins propose becoming one with Brahman. That is, you have to get the knowledge, Vachyartha, that is Jiva, is nothing but the Supreme Soul, that is nothing but Satyam Jnanam Anantam Soul, and he has to understand what his soul is. And he says that Brahman is that particular soul, and his soul and Brahman soul are one and the same, and he has to realize it, and he has to become one with it. What the Advaitins are proposing in effect, the Advaitins are proposing for the Jiva to become painful. Because if Brahman were to be the cause of the painful, material cause of the painful world, Brahman also should be of the nature of pain. And if the Brahman were to be the nature of the pain, if Jiva were to become Brahman, it means Jiva becoming what is called Advaitins proposing Jiva some pain. Why should the Jiva undergo pain? Why should there what is called Jiva undergo that pain? Why should Jiva undertake to go, experience that pain? So what is there in Advaita philosophy? Why should he accept Advaita philosophy? So Advaita is not proposing anything good, anything valuable, anything actually what is called happiness, anything, any ananda, any bliss. He is not giving any such thing. This is what is presented. So this is the thing, the objection. This objection says the Vaichitriya, Jagat Vaichitriya is available in Brahman. Jagat Vaichitriya, which is the Vaichitriya available in effect is available in the cause. So the point taken up by Shankara is cause affected by the Vaichitriya of the effect. And now, what is the nature of the cause? What is the nature of the effect? What is the nature of the cause? That has to be taken. So what is the Shankara says? Just gives an example. He says, na shuklam, na krishnam, na raktam, na pitam. So why he gives these examples? When we take a thread, if the thread is white, the cloth is white. If the thread is red, the cloth is red. That is initially, but later on we can dye it and another thing, something different. But the effect of the cause is available. Sorry, the effect of the material cause is available on effect. But Brahman, you cannot identify as Shuklam, Krishnam, Raktam, Pitam. All these things are available in the world. Shuklam is white, Krishnam is black, Raktam is red, Pitam is yellow. So Brahman is na Shuklam. it is not white. You cannot say Brahman is white. Na Krishnam, you cannot say it is black. Na Raktam, you cannot say it is red. Na Pitam, it is not yellow. Remember, it is not only Brahman cannot be identified with these colors because these colors are available in the world. He is also saying in our Agamas and in our Puranas, we identify God with different colors. Say, for example, Vishnu identified as Neelamegha Shyamala. He is not only said as a Neelamegha Shyamala, but he is also in Krita Yuga, he is white. In Kali Yuga, he is Neelamegha Shyamala. In Treta Yuga and Dwapara Yuga, he is green, something like that, yellow, and all those things. So, gods assume different colors and different times. And Shiva is considered to be red. Parvati also is considered to be black, like that. So, gods also, we are what is called seeing them with the different colors. So if gods are permanent, gods are eternal, gods are having different colors, the same colors may be available. Why not there is colors in Brahman? That's the question. So it is not only the colors available in the effect available in Brahman. If gods can be what is called the proposed with the different colors in Puranas and Agamas, why can't we see it? So whether Brahman has got any such color, any such characteristic. Na Shuklam, na Krishnam, na Raktam, na Pitam, na Kubjam, na Pinam. Kubjam means short. Pinam means fat, something like that. Kubjam is also emaciated. Kubjam can also mean hunchback, but it can refer a different thing. Kubjam means short. That is hunchbacked and emaciated consequently. Na Pitam, Pinam. Pinam means fat, mota. Na Hraswam. Hraswam means dwarf. Na Dirgam, long, lamba. So all these characteristics are not there. You cannot have these characteristics are not available in Brahman. So Brahman is devoid of these characteristics. How Brahman is devoid of these characteristics? Simply, if you say Brahman is devoid of these characteristics, will Brahman be devoid of these characteristics? When you say whole world is the effect of Brahman, and whole world has got these characteristics, how can the effect not have, I mean, cause not have the characteristic of the effect? If the cause is not having the characteristic of the effect, how can you consider it as a cause at all? That's the question. That he says, Arupam Tatha Jyotirakarakatvat. This is the reason for which these effects cannot be there in Brahman. Why? Very simple. The answer is, say, there are two different types of causes. When you discuss cause, how many types of cause are there? How many types of cause are there? So the cause essentially is two causes, Upadana Karana and Nimitta Karana. Upadana Karana is material cause, Nimitta Karana is instrumental cause. Generally, the philosophies propose these two causes only, but Nayayika may propose Asamavai Karana also, the formal cause, that which provides the form. So the warp and woof, that is that forms the actual the structure of the cloth. Hence, he may say Asamavai Karana, something like that. Other people don't think of too much of this Asamavai Karana; they don't take it. So they take only material cause and then instrumental cause. Of course, Sahakarni Karana, accessory cause are also there. That is external. These two are essential and two internal. But in the material cause also, there are two material causes, two types of material causes. There is not only one material cause, there are two types of material causes. What are the two types of material causes, especially that is discussed in Advaita much? Two types of material causes. They are Parinamyupadhana and Vivartopadhana. Parinami is transformative material cause. Vivarta is transfigurative material cause. Transformative material cause and transfigurative. Now, what is transformative and what constitutes transformative? That's also Dhyaranya discusses all these things in detail in Panchadasi. Say, for example, what we call Parinam Upadana, Dhyaranya would like to define Parinam Upadana also as Vivarta Upadana. He says, what is Parinam Upadana and what is Vivarta Upadana? Normally, we say Gata, that is part. Mud is transformed into part. Mud changes into, or mud is transformed into part. When mud is transformed into part, that becomes parinama, evolution. That is, mud becomes part. That sort of evolution or that sort of transformation is there. Hence, it is called parinama. That is change. And then the material cause for the part mud is called Parinam Vipadana, transformative material cause. Whereas rope is serpent. Rope does not change into serpent. Rope remains as rope, and rope appears like or looks like serpent. When the rope looks like serpent, the rope just presents an appearance for some as serpent. So here it is not the what is called rope changing into serpent. Rope is appearing like serpent. So it is an apparent cause. It is not an actual cause. It is not really changing. But what happens? A person sees the serpent on the rope, and when a better knowledgeable person or a person with the light comes there, and then when he throws the light on the rope, the serpent is no longer available. The serpent vanishes and rope alone is seen. So the material cause is not at all disturbed. It remains as it is, and then effect vanishes. But when you what is called to break the part, it becomes part shreds. Okay. So part and mud and part should be considered to be parinama, what is called parinama, that is change. And then rope and serpent situation should be taken apparent, visible, that is appearance. But Vidyaranya says it's not correct, because there are two parinamis. One is milk changing into curds, and become milk at all. There is no coming back at all to the causal position. Whereas in the what happens after some time, the part can become a mud. So it is only the what is called, if the part is heated, then for some time it is not available. It is unusable, only that much. But later on it may become, it can change in course of time with what is called heat and rains and air. It can get back to it change. So something can get back to the material cause, something cannot get back into the material cause. That which cannot get back into the material cause, that which is the linear cause and effect, that alone you can take it as a real material cause, that is parinami. That alone you can consider as parinama, transformation. That is one transform into other. That is milk transforming into curds. Whereas that is not the case in the case of part and mud and part. So mud and part also, because it gets back to its causal position, that also must be considered as a vivartopadana only, and not purely as parinamotpadana. So in this way, here also there is a problem. They say here also, but generally we consider, because for initially as Ekajivavada and Nana Jivavada, as in that case, only in such of those cases this can be considered as different. That is, some people consider mud part incident as Parinam Vipadana, and people like Vidyaranya would like considered as Vertopadana. So it has become a different of opinion. But milk and curds, absolutely no doubt at all, Parinami only. And Rajju Sarga, rope and snake will be Vivarta only. Mud and part alone is in between, whether to go this group, this set or that set, set A or set B, that alone. But most of the people would like to what is called, because in the word, most of the people would like to take it into set A, that is Parinami Upadana only. In this way, world has got two types of karanas. Two karanas, Upadana karana and Nimitta karana. Two types of karanas, Parinam Upadana and Vivarta Upadana. What sort of karana will be there? Vivarto Brahman. How to interpret Brahman? Normally Brahman will be Vivartopadana only. Brahman is not going to be transform itself into any object. Brahman will not be transforming itself into any object. If Brahman were to transform itself into different object, then the question of what are all the objects which are available in Brahman, in the world, that is the dukkha, pain, whether it is available in the cause, that is Brahman, or not, that question will be there. So when you take Brahman as Parinam Upadana, then this problem will be there. The availability of the characteristic of the effect should be available in the cause. But it is not like that. It is not Parinam Upadana. Brahman being Eka, Brahman being impartite, Akhanda Eka Rupaha. It has been presented Akhanda Eka Rupaha. When Brahman becomes Akhanda Eka Rupaha, the question of Brahman transforming itself, Brahman changing itself into the world does not arise. Since that question does not arise, the question of the characteristics which are available in the world, namely pain, etc., also are not available in Brahman. That also is not applicable to Brahman. So this question of Jagad Vaichitriya, it is not only the pain, it is not only the misery, but whatever is available in Brahman. That's why he say Vaichitriya. That is Shuklam, Krishnam, Raktam, Pitam, Kubjam, Pinam, Hrasvam, Dirgam. All the characteristic that is available in the object will not be available. This is what Shankara has stated in the Chatusutri. Nahi adhyastasya gunena doshena anumatrenavi sana sampadhyate. When an object is superimposed, the substratum of the superimposition is not affected even an iota by the defects or the merits of the object of what is superimposed. So the defects or merits of that object which is superimposed, that say for example, we see superimpose a silver on nacre, we see a nacre as silver, nacre is valueless, nacre people will start throwing away, nacre people will not collect and then they will not put it together, they will not add value to it. It is all useless thing, they say. But silver is very valuable, very costly. So just because silver is very costly and that silver is superimposed on nacre, whether the nacre's cost is going to increase, whether the nacre's value is going to increase, are we going to collect nacre and then keep it carefully? So it may have silver superimposed on it, but that superimposition of silver does not add value to it. In the same way, the superimposition of snake on rope does not reduce the value of rope. So the rope remains always the rope, nacre remains always the nacre, whatever is superimposed on them. That superimposition gives a sense of fear or sense of some what is called greed to them to pick it up or to run away or to keep themselves carefully. Only that much. But the objects, they remain unaffected. So Gunena Doshena Anumatrena Pisana Sampadyate. It is not related to even an iota by the object superimposed. So now what happens? Shuklam, Krishnam, Rupam, that is Pitam, all these things, they don't affect Brahman. So if these external effects, if the characteristics, if the reasons for the Vaichitriya, if they were not to affect that, our the misery and other characteristics, which are also adventitious and external, misery, etc., are not the essential characteristic, or misery, etc., are not always available. Misery, etc., are not always available there. So that particular thing will not going to affect it. That is not going to affect the Brahman. So what happens? Jagad Vaichitriya, that is the Vaichitriya of the superimposed object or Adhyastha object, will not affect the substrate, the Adhisthana. And he is giving another reason also, Arupam Jyotirakarakatvat. That we will see in the next class. Okay, thank you. Om Shruti Smriti Puranana Malayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram. Om.
Thank you very much, sir, for the brilliant explanation of Jagat Karanavadas put forth by different philosophers and how Acharya Shankara establishes Brahman as the fundamental cause. And now it is time for discussion. Participants are requested to unmute your mic and put forth your queries directly to the resource person, or you can place it in the chat box. No questions, sir. I think it is very clear. It is very clear. Thank you, sir. Once again, I thank our resource person for this brilliant explanation. If there is no more queries, it is time to wind up today's session, today's deliberations. And tomorrow, the workshop will continue. And the same time, 4 p.m. tomorrow.
Thank you.
All are requested to join at 3:55 p.m. itself. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.